Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. This is Saeed Khan with another episode of The Week That Was. It looks like we are joined in this, again, power-packed week of so much going on. We have our three lawyers. I think we're going to need them for analysis, not for our own needs. Bill Seikaly, Joel Sklar, and Steve Fishman. Yet we have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls. We are joined by Detroit Free Press investigative columnist ML Elric. We have veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Now, I thought we were going to lead with a story about Alabama and Notre Dame.
That is Elric, almost certainly.
Is that Elric or Fishman?
That was Elric.
That's not a fish sound.
Everybody wants to blame fish.
Yeah.
Wow. False witness on Fish. Sorry about that, Steve.
When Fishman's in the office, there's never a problem.
There's never a problem. Ask any of his clients. So, well, there's more news in college football and a little bit closer to home. The University of Michigan has fired with cause head coach Sharon Moore, costing him a $30 million a year contract. Is it $30 million a year? Or is it $30 million total?
I think it's
total.
$5 million.
Oh, okay.
A mere $5
okay.
million.
I stand corrected. And it seems as though the drama is something that you would probably expect from a reality TV show. Who wants to start with the updates on what has happened to Coach Moore? And I noticed that some of the Spartan alumni here seem to be at least internally snickering. So,
Go on, Fish. You know the most.
come on, Fish.
So what happened in terms of what's going on now, you guys know the same thing that I know because it's been all over the place. It's obvious if something was going on with him and the assistant. And just so everybody knows this is not an athletic department rule that he's violating. It's a rule that was put in place at the university back in the Me Too days. So it's been 6-7 years, 5-6 years, whatever it was. And it's very clear. And it applies to football coaches, and it applies to professors, and it applies to anybody else that works in a supervisory role at the university, that you cannot have relations, I guess I should say, with somebody that works beneath you. And I don't mean that in a literal sense. And I personally 100% agree with that. You guys have heard me say this before on this show, and I've certainly said it to friends of mine. I don't like the notion of somebody up here messing around with somebody down there, particularly where the up here is a male and the down here is a female. So that's the first thing. He violated a university rule, whether or not, I don't think there's a specific athletic department rule. That's A. B, Ward's taken a lot of criticism from all of the pundits. They've had all these different things on his watch, et cetera, and so forth. But in this instance, I can tell you this. I'll save that for later. He gets fired, and he's obviously not on a very even keel, right? If he goes over to the young woman's house, and supposedly he's got a knife. I know that people are saying he was threatening suicide, not doing something to her, but yet and still, if I'm in my house and somebody kicks the door in and they got a knife in their hand, I'm really not thinking who they're trying to kill. I'm just thinking, I don't like the looks of this. He's going to court sometime today. People were a little bit baffled by that, just so all the viewers know. The rules have changed in terms of what we used to call getting writs of habeas corpus years ago. When I was out there in the streets, the guy'd get locked up at 6 o'clock. His family would get a hold of me. I'd go to some judge's house. I'd get a writ. The guy'd be out by 9:30. It doesn't work that way anymore. It's almost impossible to get rid of habeas corpus, at least in the Detroit area. I'm sure it's the same in Washtenaw County. And they have, get this, in case it ever happens to any of us, 72 hours they can keep you before they bring you to court. If they don't have a warrant, a formal charge within 72 hours, they got to let you go. But obviously he hasn't been there 72 hours. Why has there been a delay? I don't know. I can tell you this, and I have no idea. So I don't want anybody thinking this is based on any facts or any conversations with anybody. It sometimes happens in cases like this. Domestic violence cases, this is kind of an offshoot of a DV case. It sometimes happens that the complainant, in this case, it would be the young administrative assistant, has second thoughts. I don't think I want to proceed. And that can delay things too. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that that's happened in this case, because I have no idea what's happened in this case, but they're probably trying to resolve what exactly they're going to charge him with. I can tell you guys something else that the viewers should note. You don't have to necessarily kick in the door to be charged with breaking and entering a house. You can open a door. For instance, if Nancy comes out of Grosse Pointe, of all places, and comes down to Southfield or in Detroit, and we tell her, look, you can't come in here. I don't want you in my house. And ML leaves the door unlocked, and she opens the door and walks in. That's a B&E as well. It's a different kind of B&E, but it's a crime. So people should know that. You don't have to kick in doors or windows to get charged with something.
Steve?
And
go ahead.
So I think what they're probably doing, we're going to find out. They were saying he's going to come for arraignment sometime this afternoon. When he comes for arraignment, they'll list what the charges are, and then everybody will know, and all the speculating will stop. If you want to talk about later on, after everybody has their say, how do I think this happened, and where do I think this, what is this bode for football and athletics in general at the University of Michigan? I got a few opinions on that as well, and I'm pretty sure those opinions are shared by at least people who played there. So,
Steve, could
just a point of clarity. When Steve mentioned Ward, he means athletic director at U of M, Ward Emanuel, and
Ward Manuel.
Ward Manuel, sorry, not Emmanuel. And then, by the way, Nancy, I tried driving into Grosse Pointe on Jefferson Avenue the other day with a dirty car, and I got busted for breaking and entering into your city. So there you go.
Steve, could the delay in the arraignment be because of the suicide threat, that maybe he's got some kind of psych hold on him?
No,
No.
Okay. I've never heard of that before. Talking about committing suicide causes, obviously, the authorities to be very careful with somebody, because the last thing you want, right, is you just stick him in a regular cell, you kind of don't pay attention, and he hangs himself, for instance.
Right, yeah, sure.
But I doubt that's part of the delay. My guess is they're just trying to find out what exactly it is they want to charge him with. And the other thing the viewers should know, just because they only charge him with, let's say, 2 things in today, doesn't mean they can't bring additional charges later. You can.
Okay.
Well, I got a question. If the woman decides, like, no, it was a misunderstanding, he thought I said come in or whatever, he didn't really threaten me, I don't want to testify, I'm not going to be a witness, I refuse, what happens?
Well, there's a couple things that can happen. Number one, as you all know now, as opposed to 50 years ago, you've got all kinds of phone conversations. You probably got stuff on there. Social media, there's probably stuff all over the place. Number two, it's very easy for somebody to say they're not going to testify, but you all have to keep in mind, and the viewers should know this, you bring somebody in front of the court and they refuse the court, they say they're not going to testify, the court gives an order. Yeah, you're going to testify. If you refuse to testify, then you're in contempt. And contempt of court, so people know, there's 2 types. There's criminal contempt, which could be you tell the judge to go fuck himself, and he gives you 10 days for criminal contempt. Civil contempt, which this would be, a refusal to testify, is way worse. You want to know why? Because they can hold you until you obey the court's order. And they can hold you for up to 180 days, at least back when I was still going to state court. So it's not so simple to do that. The second thing is that they'll probably have enough stuff based on the phone calls, because there's all kinds of, I don't want to bore the audience with the legal stuff, but things called excited utterances. There are going to be phone calls to the police, who knows where else.
The 911 tapes confirm all that, Steve.
Say it again.
the 911 tapes that were released
Yeah.
yesterday already
Yeah.
established that.
And that'd be enough too. So I don't think that they may be delaying if in fact, and keep in mind, we don't know, if she's saying she doesn't want to go forward, they could be delaying to kind of try to persuade her a little bit or to decide how they're going to go proceed. But I don't have any reason to think, and I don't think anybody should have any reason to think that she's saying she's not going to go forward. I mean, and the answer to that question, no, you don't have the right to withhold testimony unless you plead the Fifth Amendment. If she were to say, for instance, I pulled a knife on him, I mean, if she was going to testify and incriminate her own self, then of course you can plead the Fifth. You don't have to testify.
I also have a question, being in Washtenaw County there. What kind of pressure, and does it matter if all these people are calling in their chips and saying, hey, I know the prosecutor, why don't you give him a call? Let's see if we can. I'm just saying, what kind of pressure is put on the prosecutor's office from outside, from the U of M alum or U of M lawyers or whatever, or none?
Eli Sabat is the prosecutor in Washtenaw County.
Right.
I can't imagine that Eli or any other prosecutor would give a flying fuck what anybody calls and says. And if he does, then that's a huge problem. That's not, until I just heard it from you, I can't even imagine that. Who cares what somebody calls?
Right.
He calls and does what? Charge him with murder or don't charge him at all? I mean, that's crazy. You proceed on the facts. The police bring in what they have.
Right.
You get the facts that you can, and then you make a legal decision. It has nothing to do with what anybody else has to say.
Okay.
First of all, Steve, please don't, think you're boring anybody with your legal analysis. That was excellent. And the feedback that we're getting is absolutely affirming that that was much needed. So thank you for that, including from a couple of college football coaches who also appreciated what you said.
We have Michael Stone from 97.1 saying Ward should be fired. Too much crap under his watch in multiple sports. He's done some good stuff, but from the multiple football violations, lack of discipline on Jawan, hockey problems, bad overshadows good.
Well, Michael Stone's not the only one that's saying that. Media people, of course.
Yeah.
He's not the only one. I've read that in the newspaper, and I don't social media it, but I'm sure he's not the only one saying it. That's fine. Everybody, what they say, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
Well, this is a big deal when some of us are in the UK and people are throwing shade at me saying, yeah, well, we only have Andrew, you've got Sharon. ML, what's your take on this?
I'm just wondering if anybody's heard any good Mel Tucker jokes lately. No, I didn't think so.
Wow.
We saw people in Ann Arbor making a lot of jokes about Dr. Nasser. Then Dr. Anderson pops up. We see a lot of jokes about Mel Tucker. Now Sharon Moore pops up. I think maybe what we should just do holding these coaches and these officials to the same standard we would hold ourselves and the people we know and love. When you act like an asshole, you should be given the door. It doesn't matter what your win-loss record is. And when we're talking about the problems that Ward Manuel has, they go all the way back to his car being used by a basketball player to get in a crash and then give a false identity. How can you hold anybody else accountable when you won't hold yourself accountable? There used to be a term the NCAA used called lack of institutional control. If that's not what's going on in Ann Arbor, I don't know what it is. We got coaches who won't cooperate in investigations. We have a university that's suspending its own coaches. I mean, when people say, oh, you're picking on Michigan, I'm like, they suspended their own coaches. To me, when you have to keep suspending your own people to avoid harsher punishments, it's really no more. I know you don't have to testify against yourself, but sometimes your actions do. See a Ward, beat it.
I was speaking to a friend who's a sports writer who was saying he thinks in time, when this eventually blows over one way or another, that one of the Harbaugh brothers will offer him an assistant coaching job on their NFL team. So
what?
Yeah, that's the other thing. And I want to say this as a Spartan because I think people think that we're loaded. Michigan's a great institution. It's the finest higher learning institution in the state of Michigan and one of the best in the country. Of course, it's second best to the one in East Lansing, but it's one of the best. But here's what bothers me. This university that has an unimpeachable academic reputation keeps debasing itself because of what's going on in sports. And if I were a Wolverine who was proud of my degree, I'd be like, can we please stop doing this? Because you're embarrassing us. The leaders and the best, it's really hard to say that with a straight face these days. And I say this coming from a university where we embarrass ourselves almost as part of our constitutional obligation. These guys, you know, it's time for the Wolverines to step up and say, don't do this anymore. You're bringing us down. You know, I tell my students, and I teach journalism, that there's one thing that we all have that nobody can take away from us, but people give it away all the time, dirt cheap, and they find out it's almost impossible to get back. And that's your reputation.
Well, somebody brings out and says Mark Schlissel, president of U of M, had a very similar scandal. It is not just sports, ML.
Very true.
Santana Ono was on his back for the athletic program, and he didn't live on campus when he was supposed to. I mean, you know, it's just, come on, guys. And every university has trustees or regents that are clowns. I mean, you know, this is.
But ML, I mean, isn't this then just really the issue about the money talking? I mean, you can get a bunch of nerdy guys and alumni at U of M to go ahead and say you're besmirching the reputation, but the boosters always win out. They've always won out when it comes to dictating and putting pressure not only on the president and but also in this case probably on the regents as well.
And company excluded. When you're talking about U of M alumni, those are nerdy guys. It's a one-to-one.
No, I mean, I admit it. I wear glasses, but you're seeing this also in other ways. For example, right now there's another round of merger mania when it comes to media. Just a few weeks ago, you had Larry Ellison, who's the head of Oracle, getting his sonny boy David to head up this merger, whereby they bought CBS and Paramount. Now they're involved in the next merger, which is Netflix buying Warner Brothers for $72 billion with a B. Do you remember Netflix when it was, you got the little red envelope DVD in the vending machine at Walmart? I mean, it has certainly gone a long way since then. But the fact that the Trump administration seems to be now in control over whether this merger goes through, in part, as reporting seems to indicate, that Ellison has says, if you give this to us, if you go ahead and reject the merger by Netflix, but allow his own group to then make a bid and successfully, that he can, quote unquote, do something about CNN because, of course, Trump has a major problem with CNN. I mean, the money is just simply ridiculous when it comes to these corporations now putting pressure on even here, the White House.
Didn't Trump just give him TikTok? I mean, you know, we hear all this stuff about tariffs and how it's going to help bring back jobs and stimulate the American economy. Well, let me tell you the one thing that's always stimulated the American economy: competition. You want to create jobs, don't let everybody consolidate. You want to keep prices low, make sure that people have to lowball the next guy. You want to keep innovation going, don't let one company do everything. Somebody's got to come up with a better this or that. Henry Ford ran the automotive thing until people decided, I want more than a black Model T, and then he had to change things up. But if it was just Ford, we'd all still be driving jalopies with a black exterior and, you know, who knows, maybe a Heil Hitler bumper sticker on the back. I mean, listen, this is we can't keep letting these mergers happen. Competition is what America's based on. That's what's going to save us, not tariffs, not consolidation, not economies of scale. I mean, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And of course, the billionaires let these things come together because they and the stockholders become what? Billionaires. Now they become multi-billionaires. Now they become the richest people in the world.
I don't understand how Trump can, well, I understand how it can happen, but, you know, Jared Kushner is one of the financing partners behind Nepo baby David Ellison in this thing. It's like, why does why does Trump get to weigh in on something that involves his own son-in-law?
But Trump even has an interest in businesses and
Exactly.
private companies. I mean, this is
Well, I mean, for him, it's
we
all
own the means of production is what Trump's trying to do, and he's trying to control the means of production by getting pieces of these deals. And it's a
Right.
conflict of interest because you can't regulate it because you don't want to hurt yourself. You're an investor now. It's completely insane. It's not what government should be doing. Government does not own private businesses. Competition is great. Private businesses should compete. Government should not be giving the upper hand to a company that they own. And that's what's happening. So everything is skewed. And Emma's absolutely right. Trump isn't looking for competition. He's looking for insulation.
right.
And you are not going to have competition and insulation, or you're going to have shitty competition and shitty products. And that's what we're experiencing now. None of Trump's ideas have worked.
With you on one point. Trump's looking for money.
Oh, yeah.
This is all
That's
about
true.
lining Trump's pocket.
That's his priority. No question.
Situation.
Yep.
I heard a
Alan-
podcast about this particular story earlier this week, and somebody brought up the tagline for a largely forgotten movie called Alien versus Predator, and it was "Whatever wins, we lose." So that's kind of the situation here.
Nothing's getting better. We're seeing the same movies made over and over again.
God, and how many fucking superheroes are there in the world? We have to make up 10 new ones and have franchises. I never go to that shit.
The same.
How many superheroes are there other than Alan?
The same.
Speaking of superheroes,
I'm huge.
This came from the latest Epstein file photo dump from the House Oversight Committee. I sent it to Alan right before the show went on. I have no idea if this was like a joke, because I can't believe Trump would have put a photograph of himself on there, not a sketch. But
plus, he has no sense of humor.
Plus, he has no sense of humor, and we all know from
What?
We all know from Stormy Daniels that would be a big fat lie.
Alan. Alan, Christmas is still 13 days away. I mean, you didn't have to show Bill's photo that early, but that's okay. But speaking of Trump, it seems as though he's guiding us to be more abstemious when it comes to our Christmas and holiday purchases, and I think you have video about that.
Yes, I do.
Trump was all over the map last night. His blood sugar.
So let me do.
You can give up pencils. That's under the China policy. Every child can get 37 pencils. They only need one or two. They don't need that many. But you always need steel. You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice. But you don't need $37.
Just think about how out of touch this is. Trump's lecturing everyone else on how they should buy less stuff. Meanwhile, he's filled the Oval Office with so much gold, it's starting to look like the Egyptian wing at the Louvre.
We started watching The West Wing again the other day because it came up on Netflix.
Made me cry.
And now you're.
We do have one other from that speech. We have one other thing.
Trump was all over the map last night. His blood sugar was up.
Here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. I got indicted. Donald Trump married his sister. I married my sister. Donald Trump lied. Close the freaking border. Every rally I had, I don't know how they do it. Sure, these people go to jail. Jail. Oh my God, this is terrible. What about eggs? Eggs. Somalia. It's I didn't say Bonnie and Clyde, Houdini, Pinocchio, crocodiles, birds, Christmas ham, what, right? Oh no, he looks like The Rock. Those muscles are, yeah. Oh, bing, bing, shing, bing, bum, bing, bing, bum, bum, bum.
Right, every once in a while, it turns into a slot machine. He is not all there. He really isn't.
Well, the one constant in that was the guy back there wearing the shirt that said "Persians for Trump." So
I saw that. I saw that. I'm like, is that what that really says?
Yeah, because there's a lot of Persians, especially in Tarantulas, in the LA region that are big time supporters of him for a variety.
That was Pennsylvania, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Pennsylvania.
But they travel.
You see him holding up signs. One says "bigger paychecks," cheaper prices.
Lies.
Insane.
Well, here on the other side of the pond, Europe is in an outright panic, given Trump's severance from Europe on the issue of Russia. It seems as though he's favoring the Russian position, almost going straight down the line when it comes to the so-called peace deal that he is now imposing on the Ukraine, warning them to accept the deal by Christmas, because of course you realize that everything must be tidied up around here by Boxing Day. The fact that the head of the European Union and also NATO are telling the public here that you might have to fight a war of the same magnitude that your grandparents did is not just simply a matter of a moral panic, but it seems as though there's a legitimate anxiety now that the United States has gone over to Putin, the Sith Lord's side. We are at that point right now.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Trump acts like a Russian asset because he is a Russian asset. He's doing everything that the Russians want him to do. Destroying the infrastructure or the institutions that have kept us safe since World War II is insane. We know from proof of time that it has kept the world relatively safe, safer than it otherwise would have been. And to deconstruct those institutions is suicidal. You know, this is a guy that creates chaos, that expands chaos. It's a virus. It just is contagion, and it destroys the host. And that's kind of what we have here. Trump is a cancer, and he's killing the country. And it's becoming more and more obvious as time goes by. And my hope is that someday his body is like Mussolini's, dragged through the streets, because when people find out, ultimately, I hope there's a break point where the faith in Trump ends and the anger of being fooled begins and just explodes. And I think that's a real possibility the way he's going. He's destroying his base. He's taken away from his base. When the health premiums go up 4 or 5 times, people are going to shit. When the price of food doesn't, it's just things are getting worse and worse and worse. And that's the decline we're on. And I'm hoping there comes a bottom. I don't know if that will ever happen, where there's finally that extreme response of disgust toward Trump for leading on this path.
Joel, the other possibility is the canonization of him post-mortem is what happened with Franco. So I think we're at that point in American history that it could, I guess, go either way.
I suppose so.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm concerned exactly about what Saeed said. I am, every time I hear that Trump's about to collapse and Trump's about to fall, I'm amazed by his rise. And I'm not so sure this notion that he's gone over to Putin's side. I think he's been there all along. But he's beginning to use the same phraseology that existed prior to World War II, spheres of influence. Let China have China's area. Let Russia have Europe. We'll take over Venezuela. Geez, there's a fair fight. And that's what created at least 2 world wars and a lot of conflict in between. And I think it has all the likelihood of doing it again.
I think it does too.
But I don't know when he has 35% of the country. 35% of the country is a pretty large number for anybody to agree on in this country at the moment. And I don't see, I mean, I keep on hearing about cracks in his base. He keeps on doing more and more absurd stuff, and he keeps getting away with it. The Supreme Court has not done what I think at least the 3 of us really expected them to do.
There's
Congress
a measles
has not done anything.
There's a measles outbreak spreading now in, I believe,
South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. And it keeps, because measles is one of the most easily transmitted diseases in the world. It's going very fast. And somebody asked a question online, when at least some people are going to die from this. I mean, yes, for the most part, people recover from measles, but not always in the same shape that they fell ill with measles. A lot of times they lose their hearing and so forth. And if another kid dies, like happened in Texas last year, is the reaction going to be, I have been lied to, and I could have prevented this with a simple, safe vaccination? to my child, or will it be it's God's will, and we shouldn't question God. And I will give you.
And Nancy, the answer is as obvious as what happens every time we have a shooting.
Right. It's going to be. It was God's will.
Thoughts and prayers will pour out.
Right. Exactly. And so we're going to have. So you say when you say, I think maybe the people will rise up when they realize how much they've been lied to. I don't think they will. I mean, I don't want to be a pessimist.
It's my dream. It's my hope.
It's your hope, but be an optimist. I'll be the pessimist. I'll take the under on this bet. So.
Hey, Alan, let's go to a quick commercial, why don't we?
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Well, if it's hope you want for a bit of a course correction, maybe that is coming from what may seem to be an improbable place, Miami, Florida. The last time Miami had a Democrat as mayor, the British still controlled Hong Kong. For the first time since 1997, we now have Eileen Higgins, who has won what has seemed to be an impenetrable Republican stronghold in the city by the water. I don't know if this is going to be regarded as a Mamdani effect, or that there's more than one hole in the dam, and that this is where the levee might break, moving into the midterms next year. What say you regarding this development?
I think
Miami, yeah.
I mean, I think it's significant, and I also think, people of immigrants and whatever are starting to see what an evil administration this is, and how they're going. He's calling the Somalians fucking garbage. They're picking up anyone who looks Hispanic. They're locking up people who are citizens who happen to be Hispanic and stuff. I think people are getting the message that this is not a particularly friendly. We see the vote coming in the Senate to reject the supplements for the healthcare and stuff like that. And it starts to come together as an administration that is not really a friend of the people. And I think maybe it's finally getting through to, down in southern Florida there.
Not just citizens, but also veterans. Something that Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem lied through her teeth and was actually called out in recent House committee testimony. So interesting news coming from down under. Australia has now, and Steve, I think that this should be called the Fishman Law, because they have banned social media for those under 16. So you, of course, having a similar interaction or lack thereof regarding social media because you see it as being toxic, well, they've realized that just as you find it to be problematic, so do Australian kids, and they should be kept away from it.
Way too low an age. It should be under 60. That's what it should be. Because the more people we can keep off of social media, the more normal conversations, for instance, like what we've been doing, and viewers who type things in, 60 and under. So I don't know any Australians, but if you guys have any connections there, feel free to pass that on. Maybe it'll work.
I'll tell you, there's a real failure in social media. I want to bring this out. I think it's an important statement in it, and I think it fits in with the sports news that we were talking about earlier. I saw Steve last night at an event. He had his flip phone out. He was talking on it, and he ended up on stage with Jalen Rose. He was the star of the night, and I haven't seen anything on social media about it today. I've been searching desperately.
That's a Shonda.
Well, you do realize, Bill, that Steve's flip phone comes with a radar jamming device, so that it's never going to reach us. So it reminds me of the episode of The Office where Dwight is actually texting his resume to Kathy Bates one line at a time on a flip phone, and she then just torches him because it costs, like, back then 25 cents a text to receive it. So so there you go.
Remember, no texting either. Remember, there's more rules than just flip phone. No texting.
Yeah.
Michael knows that because he calls me if he wants to talk to me. He knows better than to text me.
Well, we have. I mean, 25 cents per text is no longer an issue because, of course, it's unlimited. But somebody who's looking to alleviate himself of a past due bill is ex-Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, who is beseeching a federal judge to relieve him of his restitution payments, which are around $830,000. Any thoughts on how this is going to go, Alan?
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh no, I've got a thought on how it's going to go. It's going to go exactly as well as every other attempt he's made with Judge Edmonds. The only thing that he probably doesn't know, well, maybe he knows, it's pretty common knowledge, he's retiring in the middle of next year. So maybe he'll have a lot better luck with someone else. But somehow I doubt that. It's astounding to me, the gall of this guy. He gets pardoned. How many years did he lose off a sentence?
He had 28 years. He served about 8.
21.
Yeah.
He gets 20 years off a sentence. Is that enough? No, that's not enough. Now he wants to steal all the money he stole. He doesn't want to pay any of it back, but he likes living in a mansion and all that other stuff. It's unbelievable to me. Somebody in the paper quoted from Judge Edmonds' decision the last time. There were a lot of quotes from it, and my guess is that this denial will read very strangely similar to the language he used the last time.
I agree with Steve because, I mean, look, it was clear, just even the interaction before the conviction, Edmonds did not really like Kilpatrick. And the fact that she gave 28 years sent a pretty strong message that she totally believed in the conviction, that he was convicted of 24 or 30 counts. The interesting thing is he wrote the brief asking to be for this all to be wiped clean. And in there he says, Kilpatrick makes no excuses for his past action. Right. But in 2022, he said about the federal charges, all of this mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, absolutely not. That's but right. We know, and the lawyers particularly know, if you don't admit guilt and you're asking for a break, I mean, it would not play well at all. I mean, it's probably not going to play well with Edmonds anyways, but if he were to try to say, well, I didn't really do this, and she'd be like, fuck you, there's no way. Elric, you must have an opinion.
Here's why he's not entitled to a break. You can find us at Next Chapter Books in East English Village and the Post on Kercheval in Detroit. You said it perfectly, Alan. You can't be forgiven if you don't admit that you've done something wrong. Exactly. He alternates from saying, I don't know anything, to saying, can we get rid of the restitution? It's like, well, I thought you didn't owe anything. It's like he just keeps alternating arguments. None of them work. And I had heard, and I don't know how reliable this is, that Nancy Edmonds had been having maybe second thoughts at 28 years was too harsh a sentence. Now, again, I don't know if that's true. The only reason I mentioned that is because if she ever had a flicker of that, I got a feeling she's feeling pretty good today that 28 was right on the nose. I mean, if ever there was a guy who was unrepentant, and I've often said I thought 28 years was appropriate. It was within the guidelines. It was lower than the prosecutor's request. But if we send people to prison to punish them, that's fine. If we send them for rehabilitation, he should have received a life sentence because he will never, ever change.
No.
Mike and I disagree a little bit on that. I thought 28 years was excessive. I know
27 and a half. We can meet in the middle.
All right. But I know there were meetings over at the courthouse before the sentencing, and sometimes on bigger cases like this, the federal judges all get together and they talk about it. And there were some judges who were against that severe of a sentencing. But I think 28 years, what's the difference? I mean, you serve 12 or 15 years, you get 28 years. I think at some point it's excessive.
Wait, we got to clarify something.
Yeah.
The judges don't quote, all the judges don't quote get together. What they have in federal court, and they use it more often in a high profile case or a difficult case, they have sentencing panels. It's generally 3 judges, which includes the sentencing judge, and they kick the thing around and everybody gives their opinion. So just so everybody knows, it's not like they all sit around together and say, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It's not like that.
I'd like to connect some of the themes for all the stories we've covered today.
Okay.
I am amazed that we're even talking about this. If it wasn't Kwame Kilpatrick, if it wasn't a person, a high-profile person in a position of power with money and influence, nobody would have gotten a reduced sentence. There are people who've done far less egregious things than Kwame, who are still sitting in Jackson and have no hope of getting out because they don't know Trump and they don't know people with that kind of influence. The thing that bothers me so much about what happened at the University of Michigan is it's being covered as a fucking sports story when it should be a sexual harassment story and nothing else. This is all about power, people with power abusing it. And it's the great problem of our society at the moment.
Yeah.
It's the great problem in our society.
Well, I mean, who doesn't believe that if for some reason a miracle happens and, Trump is out of the presidency and the Democrats get it back and we have somebody other than Merrick Garland in charge and somebody brings up Pete Hegseth, say, on war crimes charges, right? Who doesn't believe that Trump would pardon him? In fact, Trump is probably going to issue a pardon to every single person who's having it on the way out the door, and he doesn't give a shit. He's half demented anyway. I'm convinced he's, your lips to God's ear. I really think that I'm wondering if he'll last through 2026. But it
doesn't matter. The vice president will do the same thing.
Right.
I know, it's true.
I mean, we've given license to kill, literally, to Trump, and I mean, literally license to kill without due process, without evidence, only on suspicion, which God knows how weak that is. I mean, think how far we've come.
Right.
When we were the nation that was governed by laws, we're not. We're governed by feeling of rage and hate and whatever comes to some madman's mind. And this is the antithesis of democracy, obviously. And we're slowly dying. Maybe not so slowly, but we're dying. And watching this spiral, we all have anguish. We speak out, we vote, we do what we try to do. But this is a madman who the courts. Nobody's. There are no guardrails. Congress isn't going to do anything. The courts will do nothing. You give a madman power, he does what a madman does. He kills, he destroys for his own elevation because he's a weak, sad, sick man. He has no confidence. Truly, he's insecure as hell. And all of this is a manifestation of that. And I think that's the human condition we're seeing in Trump. His emptiness is profound, and he fills it up with shit. And that's
but it's let's be clear. My point is this: it's not limited to Trump.
No.
What goes on in this society?
It's our way of being.
Taken over our society.
It's our way of being right now.
The greatest manifestation of it. Right.
Correct.
Well, look at the law. I mean, what they're proposing now: 5 years of your social media to be reported if you're trying to get to the United States, and maybe even a sample of your DNA. So this is going well beyond Orwell. Right. By the way, Bill, I gotta say, Korg, Yamaha, Kurzweil, you, I think, are a better synthesizer than all 3 of those combined. That was really great in how you brought all of the topics together.
Do Afrikaners have to give the same materials? If you're coming from South Africa and you're white, are you going to have to give these 5 years of media? Absolutely not.
Everybody except
absolutely not.
In Sweden.
If you're white, you're right. You're coming in. That's what this is. What's going to happen.
How do you produce the last 5 years of your social media? I mean, and who's in charge of reading all that stupid bullshit? So congratulations to my daughter graduating from high school.
All I know is that Steve would be like this.
They'll be looking at mine saying, "Why so many pictures of pizza?"
But this whole idea about accountability and people doing the honorable thing. Alan, you of course being almost an honorary doyen of Hamtramck. The city clerk, or the suspended city clerk, Rana Faraj, is suing now the city officials, claiming retaliation for her reporting election misconduct. She had alerted the officials that there were 37 absentee ballots that were found 2 days after the November the 4th elections, and she was then summarily suspended as a result of it. Anything more on this?
She is. I think she's suing them for her. I think she's still on paid leave, but I mean, it's just part of the craziness of Hamtramck. Hamtramck sort of got. I mean, they've had previous administrations that have been sort of scandalous or whatever, but this administration is just getting so crazy. I mean, yeah, they found what had happened is the night of the election, later at night, somebody contacted her in the city and said, "There's the absentee ballots don't match the count with the number deposited," and so then I think it was the next day she found them in her office. They went before the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, who voted, I think, 2-2 whether to count them or not. So they're not being counted at the moment. I think the mayor, the other candidate who lost by just a few votes, is appealing that. It's just the city's it's a mess, and now the mayor is leaving. You know, the current mayor Galib, and it doesn't look like. I'll be surprised if he gets the confirmation as the ambassador to Kuwait.
I will be too. I don't think he's. I think he's going down.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, have opposed it, and Trump hasn't said a word.
Yeah.
Which to me says, "All right, I did my thing. You're gone. I'm not gonna."
This is why.
Well, now that Alina Hava is no longer the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, I think maybe she could go to Kuwait.
Yeah.
Do you remember in 2020 all of the stories about? Excuse me, I feel free to use Yiddish in this show because I feel like I have the blessings of all of you. But anyway,
you're among friends.
Okay, even though I live in Grosse-Pointe, the stories over the like how many unbalanced precincts. Remember in Detroit, and how they had, there were like so many ballots issued, but only so many came back, and blah blah blah. The Janice Winfrey, from what I understand, hired a former state elections director to be a consultant. And I think his name it was Chris Thomas, but he came in and he instituted some very simple, common sense procedures for how absentee ballots would be handled. And I think within at least one or maybe two elections, they had a error rate of 0. And it's easy to say it doesn't matter. It's only 30 votes in out of thousands cast. But in this case, it was such a short, tight election that those 30 votes could have been really, really important. But
it would have made the difference.
Yes, exactly. But it just goes to show how important it is for all of those little nitpicky rules to be followed. And the people who keep coming up with these ideas for how we can reform this corrupt system are full of shit, because having our elections atomized the way they are is what keeps them secure. Believe me, you do not want Elon Musk running national elections. It's just
because everything they want is just voter suppression.
Yes, exactly. It's like certain bedrock rules. Everyone who wants to vote should get a chance to vote. Yes, you should probably err on the side of if the signature is a little weird, go ahead and approve it. I mean, this is important stuff, and so rant over.
So speaking of the great Afrikaner there, Nancy, it seems as though Tesla is tanking as far as customer satisfaction and sales, and he's also expressing a little bit of regret that Doge didn't really work.
Well, let's pay him $1 trillion, and bullshit Doge didn't work. It did incredible damage. I mean, It worked at that. It did. There are probably hundreds of thousands of children who are going to starve to death because U.S. aid has gone away. In that sense, it worked just fine. And these guys, they come in and they think they know government. Oh, we're just going to go in and hack, chainsaw whole departments and bring, waste and fraud is going to be eliminated. Of course it won't. You can't, how arrogant do you have to be, running your car company that's, fallen apart and they want to pay you $1 trillion for it, to think you can come into something as complex as the United States federal government and somehow work it out with, big balls and whoever, the little boy. I'm sure he downloaded probably trillions of dollars worth of information when he was in those computer systems. And, that is a ticking bomb that hasn't gone off yet.
I want to say there are two people who could make a difference in this whole thing.
Alan,
Alan, the Santa
That's
Cycling.
the best Santa.
Santa Cycling.
Like Santa outfit.
Alan,
cool.
I hate to tell you this, but you're like one pope behind. I mean, I don't think he can really help us right now. So,
well, just on the left.
Hope that JD Vance killed, right?
You look so sharp there.
He was handing off the
You were
power.
born to wear a suit. Maybe Sean Duffy has a point. If we just dressed a little better, everything would be fine at the airport.
When I was flying over here, there was a guy who was wearing a suit. He never took his jacket off. He never took his tie off, and he looked miserable. But he was very old school, and he landed, and it did nothing about his 5 o'clock shadow. So he was going to have to do something to prop out.
The first time I flew, my mother made us dress like we were going to church. I was about 10 years old. That was just, and to this day, I don't like to get on. I mean, I know what Sean Duffy's talking about when you see people at the airport that look like they literally just rolled out of bed. And I understand, delays and Spirit and, it's a miserable experience flying, but they make a lot of elastic waist pants that don't look like pajamas. Okay. Just
you don't have to look like that.
You don't have to look like it. Right.
But there's probably studies that have been done that a good number of the people who dress like that tend to vote for red state politics. So it seemed as though he was undermining his own base. But what do I know? Well, while I'm sitting here waiting with bated breath Tuesday for the third test match between Australia and England to start in Adelaide, there's other news, of course, in the United States. Notwithstanding the fact that the president has said that we may need to change the name of this sport, but in the college football playoffs, Alabama is in and Notre Dame is out. So, thoughts about this development? And apparently, ML, isn't it true that Notre Dame cried so much that they've got now some kind of agreement from the ACC that if this happens again, they're going to make the playoffs?
I don't really follow Notre Dame's travails. I usually see the rules being bent in their favor. So if it's gone the other way, that's a beautiful thing. But before this ridiculous consolidation of college conferences, Notre Dame should have joined the Big Ten. That was a logical place for them to be. They would have been against the leaders and best in some other teams. They didn't want to do it. So now they kind of are a part of the ACC for some sports. They're part of the Big Ten for hockey. They're kind of independent. It's like, you know what? There's a thing about dancing with the one you brung. Instead, they're trying to knock up every bridesmaid. Well, guess what happens? Sometimes.
Oh, God.
I think Michael's point is really, really well taken. Who are we kidding when you look at these so-called conferences? I mean, the gymnastics team from Michigan flies out to Oregon and Washington. I mean, it's insane. The whole thing is crazy. It's all about money, as we all know, and everything's about money these days. And Notre Dame, I think, Michael, when they wouldn't join a conference, if you remember, I think, didn't they have an exclusive contract? Was it NBC or whatever?
NBC.
And they don't have to share it with anybody, and they keep all the money, et cetera, even though I know it's a religious institution over there at Notre Dame, but they managed to take a few dollars out of it too. But really, are we really supposed to pay attention to the conferences when Michigan's playing Oregon and Washington and basketball? I mean, it's insane. The whole thing's crazy.
Steve, I saw UCLA play Michigan State on a Tuesday afternoon in soccer.
Right.
You know, and when you see the big revenue sports, it's a big deal. Let me tell you what happens after a soccer game. The players walk back to their dorms. Right? It's a burden on the university. It's not fair to the players. It makes a mockery of student athletes, and it's purely a money grab. They don't even do it in a logical way where there's a West Division and there's an East Division.
Right.
But the thing with Notre Dame is, you know, you find out when you sort of dawdle with everybody, nobody stands up for you. And the other thing is, so now they're not going to play. Well, I'm a big believer that Steve, outstanding athlete, he'll tell you that himself, but it's true. I am purely a rec leaguer at best. I've always believed that we need to teach people about life through sports, not that sports is life. Notre Dame, one of the premier academic institutions, one of the top athletic institutions, and what have they just taught not only their athletes, but everybody who follows Notre Dame? When you don't get your way, you go home or you stay home.
Take your ball and go home.
Be a quitter. You know, I want to know what Rudy has to say about that.
Actually, Alan, I think we showed a picture of Rudy earlier.
Oh, he was thinking about that. Searching, always searching. Where am I going to find that thing? Where could it possibly be?
Rudy.
I know a few domers.
ML, I mean, in fairness, I don't think all the MSU soccer players walk back to their dorms after the match. I remember one center back actually starting his shift at the Peanut Barrel about an hour later. So
might have gone to Crunchies. It was pretty cold.
Crunchies is, yeah, that's true. Hey, Alan, let's go to the last segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Smart of the Week.
All right.
When you said Peanut Barrel, I did a stand-up comedy routine there one night.
You're type 5? All right.
I killed it.
It was your last stand-up night, by the way. It became a full-time restaurant after that.
Wow. You know, and I thought we were going to have to wait for the memoirs to hear that story. Thank you, Alan. Steve, who's your schmuck?
I have two, but they're kind of tied together. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I don't know if you guys saw in the newspaper today. Of all people, they were meeting with Zelensky's lead negotiator, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I mean, can you imagine sending two more incompetent people to meet with your local garbage collector, for God's sake, let alone to meet with his lead negotiator? And the kind of what you guys have been saying throughout the show. The administration made it sound like, what is anybody asking for? Of course. Why would they not? You know, sure. So for me, and there was good competition this week, I have to say, but I'm giving it to those two. And I can't imagine, I wish there was a transcript in English, of course, of this meeting. I'd like to hear the discussion, particularly Bongino's version of it.
Yeah.
He's the same guy who said the FBI was in on not solving the January 6th bomber case. And now he says, nope, no, I just said that back then because I was paid to say that. I'm like,
right, exactly.
Well, speaking of English, Steve, I mean, apparently Melania Trump is getting it because she was reading to some kids Christmas stories, and she couldn't even say the word Christmas properly. And if you looked at the kids in the photo op, they had the same look on their face as that one little boy that Saddam Hussein was patting on the head back in the early 80s. Joel.
I got two. I got I think it's Kim Davis, from Kentucky, from Rowan County, Kentucky.
The one who wouldn't
same-sex marriages. She lost her cert to the Supreme Court, and she was hit with fines. So she's got to pay a whole bunch of legal fees.
Put him in there.
For her. The second one is obviously Sharon Moore, but I want to just humanize him for a second. You got to realize this is a human being. He's got the same frailties that all of us have, the same weaknesses. He has a wife and 3 children. The real impact on this, I mean, if you take away from the Schadenfreude or whatever it is of the story, it's tragic. You know, he's got 3 little girls. He's got a wife. He had a life. He had a really good life. And now he has become a national, I don't want to say a joke, but an embarrassment. And I think that has a real impact on those closest to him. And I don't want people to forget that. This is a human being with a family, and it's devastating for all. So while it may give us chuckles, like what an idiot, It has a real life impact that is tragic in every sense. So I just want to throw that in.
Just one correction, Joel. International, not just national.
Okay, international, correct. Worldwide.
Why didn't he think of them?
It's trending here. Barb.
I have the trend today is two. So I have two, and big shock. They're both Michigan Republicans. One would be Matt Maddock, who approved a bill blocking implicit bias training requirements for health professionals, which means continue to ignore people of color and all women when they come in to hospitals with a problem. I mean, it really, it's crazy and it's racist and it's anti-woman. So, and all those things.
He's all of those things. He's all of those things. So.
Proudly. And the other one is, of course, Matt Hall, who the bill that they dropped, I'm sorry, let me find this. They canceled nearly $645 million in ongoing state spending without any hearings or negotiations. Maternal grants, Holocaust education, traffic safety pilots, economic development tied to federal matches. And they're like, beep. You know, so who knows where this is going to go, but they, as I say, these guys never let me down. If there's something good that can be done with government, they are going to take a big giant shit all over it. So,
all right, ML.
You know who else never let you down? The media who broke that story. One of my former students did.
That's right. Distill Social and Michigan Advance. Thanks. I like to shout them out.
I think it was Gongwer actually, but it's okay. We don't need to argue about that. You know, here's I'm gonna take a big old group of schmucks. Anybody who's spending today and the coming days talking about how this may be the best thing that could have happened to Michigan football because Sharon Moore wasn't a good coach and we can get somebody better. We've missed the whole point. People. Getting somebody better doesn't just mean someone who's likely to be more successful. It's someone who can represent us properly, who can raise our athletes to high standards, who can set an example for all of us to follow, and who can be someone for us to look up to, and who will probably be worth the 10 or 15 million they get. So if you think this story is about success on the gridiron, you missed the whole thing. And guess what? We're going to do it all again real soon.
Yeah.
Huh. Yep.
All right.
The real
Bill.
shame about that, ML, is that there are plenty of people out there who thought, well, he could have gotten away with this if he would have had a better record.
There are people who. My husband asked me that this morning.
No way. No,
I didn't think. I told him I didn't think so.
I do, and I've represented a lot of people in these situations.
Yeah.
The more powerful you are, the more likely.
Well, to Bill's point, Bobby Petrino keeps getting jobs, and if you know who he is, he also dipped his pen in the company ink and got caught and was using university resource, and he keeps getting hiring as a head coach because he wins.
The winner.
Rick Pitino.
Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight finally got fired for exactly this stuff. I know because my investigator was the person who did the investigation, and he'd been getting away with it for years and years and years. Why? Because he had such a winning record.
Mm-hmm. And to this day, there are Hoosiers who think that he got a raw deal.
Right.
So there.
Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky. You can just go down the line.
Nope,
Bill.
nobody thinks Jerry Sandusky and Joe Paterno got a raw deal. Come on.
No. But for a while there, they seemed to be immunized from what was happening. So that's right.
Because of the record. So mine's Andrew Tate, probably one of the worst people on the planet, who's been sitting in Romania. While he may be from England, this is a well-known misogynist, one of the great bros of the world. And he's been in Romania under house arrest while they're investigating rape charges. He became friendly with Tucker Carlson and Barron Trump. And as a result, the Trump administration apparently has intervened and gotten him out of house arrest in Romania. He bragged this morning, Donald wants to see him in this country.
He's in Florida. He lives in Florida.
Yeah.
This is, to me, amazing that Trump does everything he can to appeal to the most base, the worst part of society.
Yep.
And it also shows us that the apple did not fall far from the tree. I had always refrained from saying anything about Barron Trump because I figured he's a kid. But now he's all grown up, and it sounds like he's just as bad as his dad. So there you go. And his mother was,
Well, I think his mother trained him well, and we know what.
I know. So
she did give out the best Christmas ornaments to all those kids who were sitting there.
Really, exactly. So okay.
Right.
Am I up?
All right, Nancy. Yep.
Okay. I can't believe that I'm like the second or third to last person, and this is still on the table. But mine is, of course, Marco Rubio for taking the bold step of changing the official typeface for State Department communication from the Biden administration had changed it from Times New Roman, which is a serif font. But anybody who works on a computer knows this. Sorry, Steve. And to Calibri, which is a sans serif font, and is allegedly easier to read for people who have vision difficulties. Well, we can't have that woke shit in our state. So they have switched from Calibri back to Times New Roman, and the world is a safer place today. And
but isn't it ironic for an administration that hates the New York Times to have Times New Roman back?
Times New Roman, I don't know. I used to be strictly a serif woman, and lately I write everything in Arial, which is just like Calibri. And I didn't think I was doing it for woke reasons, but there you go. So
Steve just nodded out on that one. What?
Yeah.
It's the only excuse for Comic Sans. Is that, kids with vision problems can read Comic Sans really easily too.
Okay.
I've got two. Pam Bondi's Justice Department for trying a second time to indict Letitia James and failing
again.
Just amazing. If Steve can, that's got to be a rarity that you go twice before a grand jury with the same thing. And the other one is John Fetterman for reaching out to the Israeli president, urging him to pardon Netanyahu, which is just total bullshit.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got two. I'm going to keep going with the trend here. One of them actually is Israeli President Isaac Herzog for saying that Mayor-elect of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, is both, quote, anti-Jewish and anti-American. This despite the fact that Mamdani received quite a reception among the Satmar Kuf Aleph Kislev group in New York City, thousands of ultra-Orthodox Jews, and he has plenty of them in his transition team and plenty who voted for him. Calling him anti-Jewish is strong enough, but for an Israeli president, a foreign president, to call an American anti-American, thanks, but we can handle that ourselves. But the other real schmuck has to be Calvin Curtis Johnson, who in Florida was arrested for car theft after going 130 miles per hour, ending up in a crash. He walked away from it, but he claims that he was teleported into the stolen BMW. So
it's not there.
Yes. So I don't know which of your favorite Star Trek movies you wanna go ahead and think about. I, of course, am partial to the Wrath of Khan, but Florida never ever disappoints when it comes to the sheer amount of schmucks that come out of there. Well, thank you for another terrific episode of The Week That Was. Thank you to all of our wonderful audience that tunes in and also makes comments. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Steve Fishman. Thank you, Emma Ulrich. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. And thank you, and always with the last word, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely and go Lions.
Go Lions and happy Hanukkah. I know that starts
happy
this
Hanukkah.
weekend, so don't burn
that's
your
right.
fingers.
Hanukkah starts Sunday. Sunday night.
There you go.
Enjoy your guilt. So.